Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Wouldn't it be amazing to change your life, change the way you look at things? Your relationships improve, your job improves. Everything is better just by changing the way you think and the way you approach things. We're going to talk about that today. Many different modalities circle around this. I've got somebody here who is a clinical hypnotherapist. His credentials go, I can't even read them all in the time that we have here in this podcast, but I can tell you this, that he's certified in many different areas to facilitate things like Psych-K and so much more. We're going to learn deeply about this today. He is Noah James. He's with us. Noah, welcome back. How you doing?
Welcome back to you as well. I'm really excited about today. This is really going to be a thrilling session because it touches on the technology advancements that have been made to help us become better versions of ourselves.
I've shared with you before that when it comes to hypnotherapy, I'm a hypnotherapy cheerleader. Once I discovered it, and yes, I waited to the end, waiting, what else could I try? Try this, and it's the last thing, as it is for many of us. But what a game changer. Same thing with Psych-K and just all these things that basically are the key to your subconscious. We have somebody with us today that you work very closely with, Noah. Tell us who that is.
Well, this is Dr. Venter. Dr. Venter, you'll note in a moment that his accent betrays his genesis of life, as he's from South Africa. So, but he is got a double PhD in natural medicine and is a biotech inventor and CEO of Wellbeing Reality. He created a low-frequency altered sound treatment system that has the capacity to change our physiology as well as the thoughts that we think, a whole host of things. And today we really want to talk more about that and see the interplay between the mind-body connection and potentially a new program that he's brought out, or a new device that he has brought out that's going to be made available to us in the not too distant future. So, Dr. Raymond, thank you for being our guest here today. We're excited to hear from you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Lots to learn, especially with the technology spin on things. Where should we begin with this today?
Well, Steve, maybe we can touch on your sympathetic and parasympathetic state. And we all know that when we go through different traumas, and a trauma could be something gentle as you losing a job, and gruesome as losing a loved one. And all these small things that take a knock onto our existence, our future, because we start carrying this emotional baggage. And it's going to continue carrying unless you have got a strategy to get rid of this emotional baggage. And unfortunately, those emotional baggages also carry over to different conditions. And a doctor would diagnose you with a specific condition, but never over his mind cross over his mind to think, could it perhaps be an origin of emotions? And that's what we need to rectify, right?
So we're saying here that this emotional baggage that we all carry around, it could be something from decades ago. It could be something from yesterday. It doesn't matter. We've got it with us, and we need to get rid of it.
Oh, yes. We just take, for example, your autoimmune diseases. If you don't mind me spending like a 3-minute of a story of a lady with autoimmune disease, is okay with you guys?
Sure.
So this lady, she walks into my office and she battles to sit. So she was like leaning over to sit, and I ask, what can I help you with? And in tears in her eyes, she says, I would like to sit on the floor and play with my son, little baby boy. And I say, so what's happening? And so she's got a condition where the skin starts pulling tight. And it's autoimmune disease. It's pulled so tight that she cannot bend her legs 90 degrees to sit. The skin is too tight around her buttocks. She cannot climb stairs because the skin around the knees are too tight. She cannot wear the high heels because just pointing the toes the skin is too tight. And immediately I move over to when did it happen? And I immediately ask her, what's the emotion that happened, the trauma that happened? And there she and her mother starts tearing up again on saying, but from doctor to doctor saying it's got to do with this traumatic event. Now, the traumatic event was she was standing in her own kitchen with a baby on the hip, making the baby food, feeling safe in her home. And thieves broke in and knocked her over the head with a revolver. And that obviously is a feeling of I feel exposed. Now, the emotions happen in the heart, and there's more communication from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. So this coherence that happens between the heart and the brain, because there is neurons in the heart, same as in the brain, that hold the emotions. And it communicates to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus direct to the pituitary gland. And this is then the emotion that gets exposed. And this is where the lady, her emotion was expressed in the skin because it's I feel exposed, and that's the autoimmune disease. And so many other conditions that have got the same root type of thing that happens. If we talk about leukemia, which is a cancer that looks like an autoimmune disease, or is it an autoimmune disease that looks like cancer? Exactly the same. And very much on autoimmune disease, it's like you've got a loss of somebody, or you've got a anger, and especially when it comes to autoimmune disease of leukemia, is going about what was the anger. And I had one lady, for example, her anger is her nephew stole all her money out of her bank accounts. At age 77, she has to go back working again. And these are the emotions that then trap you into this state, and obviously you're going to express the emotions in this condition.
My gosh, so many people are walking around today with different disease, medical affliction, challenges. And what I'm hearing from you both today, it could very well be coming from an emotional situation that turned into these challenges. And we don't even know what's going on. We just think, oh, genetics, must have been passed on to me or whatever it might be. But it's traced back to the emotions. Raymond, I know it's hard to give a percentage, but I'm curious. The things that most of us deal with nowadays, how much do you think it goes back to the emotion that we've dealt with that is causing these other issues? Is it something, I think maybe 20% is causing it? No, it's 80%. What do you think? Complete ballpark, not scientific.
Well, Steve, I would go more than 90%.
Wow. Okay, there you go.
And
Wow.
the reason for that is that it's emotion. Let me take a small example. Let's take Parkinson's disease. Now, we all know Parkinson's disease is you would have a forward head syndrome looking like that. And we take that person and say, right, there's no trauma that happened, but what happened is, let's say the parents, none of them had it. But this child had a teacher that he loved the teacher, and the teacher expressed a lot of love towards it, the child, and they just clicked. But this teacher has got a forward head syndrome. And this child would then imprint and say, to be this loving person, I need to have this posture. And now the posture gets in the subconscious mind, and what's going to happen as they grow older, they're going to have the forward head syndrome, and now you've got the disease that's going to progress to Parkinson, for example. So every small thing, if it wasn't parasites, it would be something else. But it's not even just that. That's that when we take, Steve, if I may use you as an example, if I would ask you as Harpers, how old do you normally get?
In terms of how long do we live?
Yes.
In my family?
Yes.
Fully transparent. I'll give it all to you. My dad passed at 58. My mom passed 5 years ago, and she was just a month shy of her 90th. My aunt on her side lived to about 90, although she never wanted anybody to know that. Um, yeah, that's kind of the baseline. I don't know if that's helpful.
All right. So now, the dad 58 and mom in the 90s. Where do you feel that you will probably be fitting in?
It's a great question. My dad was healthy, as far as I can tell. I didn't have a very close relationship, but I look back at all of his medical records. He was relatively healthy and dropped from a sudden heart attack. All of this being said, looking at all of this, we don't have the answer, but I would say I'm looking at 80. If I'm looking at, I don't know.
All right. So this beautiful example, because you're taking mom and dad and you're averaging it out, and you are going to start changing your business. Your everything is going to change to be able to die at age 80. So in other words, you would start saying, I need to retire, let's say at 70. So I've got 10 years of rest. Then you need certain conditions to start taking place so that you can die at age 80. And even a small thing like that of when mom and dad died, when great parents died, you start identifying, saying that this is when I should start switching off. But we are designed to live for 120 years and 126 days. This is how the DNA is designed. But then subconsciously, what we're busy doing is we're busy pacing ourselves to get to the finish line at the time of what our forefathers done. And if you're not going to change your mind and saying, I want to get to 100, I want to get to fill in the blank, then you're just going to have the program run out to create a disease, to a condition that's going to help you to be able to pass at that specific time. So it's all up to us to change what is given to us inherent, because it's just a programming that started happening. And this is what we need to change. If you were fixated on dad at 58 and saying it was heart attack, you would have started getting stressful and saying, I'm nearing this in so many years, so I need to make my plans and these type of things. But clearly your minds are really healthier, because you're planning saying, I'm not going to be my dad. I would rather be closer to mom, and that's where you're putting yourself at 80. We all ponder these things. And what we know is that if you ponder something for more than 72 hours, then the neurons connect and it becomes a belief. And whatever the belief, you're going to manifest within your life. And that is how we create our reality. It's not this woo-woo saying you're not going to be able to create. How can you create reality? These are things, because your subconscious mind controls the behavior as well as the decision making. So if your behavior must change to really get the condition, you're going to start generating a sweet tooth. And that's going to change the microbiomes, and then it starts escalating. So the question saying how much is got to do with emotions, I'd say more than 90%, simply because everything changes like that. If we just look at it, for example, a horse. Do you know a horse can smell your emotions? And how do they do it? Is because your pituitary glands gives certain hormones, and they can smell the fear, they can smell the anxiety, they can smell whatever.
And I'm laughing, Raymond, because I had Arabians, and they could smell my fear, and they'd try and scrape me off under tree branches almost on a daily basis. So you're absolutely correct. We use them to help kids who have been abused, particularly because they're very, very sensitive to the spirits of men, as well as the pheromones and the smells that you're speaking of specifically as well. They're very, very fascinating creatures.
And so it's all going about us, which has got this ability to be able to change whatever's in the body. I mean, if you just take the tears of laughter and the tears of sorrow and the tears of change, and you look at that under the microscope, they come in from the same person, but they are day and night difference. in the makeup of the tear. So there you can see how much our emotions has got an impact on our life. And that's what we need to reset. And fortunately, because technology has increased and we've got more understanding, we have got the ability to start making changes. And it's not too difficult to make those changes, fortunately.
I wanted to say, after I gave that number of 80, that there was a disclaimer.
Sure, you're backtracking now.
No. I didn't want to cut Raymond off.
I really want to live to 130.
No, I just wanted to say, in no way was I manifesting 80. And I believe everything you're saying, and exponentially am learning it in my journey, even in the last 3 years. Even so much, side note, that I just went to a cardiologist. I did it, taking all those steps. But I will tell you, as I was getting older a few years ago, I looked at my dad passing at 58, and I became concerned. I'm not even kidding. It was like, I don't know. Maybe the clock is ticking. Now I look at it in a totally different way. Yeah, we get older, we get up, we're a little creaky here and there. But if you, like they say, if you think younger, you are younger. And I believe that's even part of manifesting. You're manifesting a younger life for yourself. How do we make these changes? How do we change our mindset? I know there's many different modalities to do that. What's the starting point there?
Well, Steve, just like what you're saying, you've got a very positive outlook in life and you're taking steps. You've got strategy to work against it. But unfortunately, what happens is it still comes back to the subconscious mind controls and coordinates the behavior decision-making. And you might be extremely healthy, but at age 80, you might decide you want to, on your 80th birthday, you want to go do a parachute dive just to prove you're so healthy.
Hold on, I'm going next week. Continue. Not even kidding.
I have to, then I must zip it.
I'm not even kidding. And I just said to my son, who just turned 18, now he's legally able to do it. You want to go together? So probably going to be next weekend. If you talked to me 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, I'd like to go. I don't know about that. Now I'm like, let's go. Let's move.
All right. I'm going to change my discussion on this because I do not want to put this onto you, and we can have a discussion after just to hear how you enjoyed it.
And next week it's going to be on synchronicities. Our conversation pieces are somehow tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so let's say you'd be on your bicycle and you'd at age 80 and you'd ride in front of the bus simply because your subconscious mind says, but I should die at a certain age. So how do we change the subconscious mind? Because the conscious mind is making these strategies, but we're still controlled by our subconscious mind. And to be able to change that, we need to change the neurons that fire together. Like you thought about, Dad, is it really getting close? Okay, so let me go do some bucket lists just for in case, and all these things. And you wonder, but why did I decide to go for this skydiving event? And it's your subconscious mind that says, I need to knock off some of these bucket lists because we don't know how much time we've got left. And this is the subconscious mind controlling and changing your decision making, also your belief. So not to get down on get hard on you with the emotions that's bogging you down to get to age 80. But the thing is, we need to say, what's our strategy for us as humans? Because we've all got this baggage where there's conditions. The breast cancer lady that's got a right breast cancer has got to do with the male losing the relationship, or the left breast mother or daughter, because that's the emotion. So all these things are weighing down on us. And if we have to change it, we change the subconscious mind. Now, how we do it is the neuroplasticity. So what we do is we physically, now my professor hears this, he always smacks me against the head. He says, stop saying it, but I have to say it because it makes more sense. We have to brainwash ourselves not to be in that state. Because if we're not going to change our subconscious mind, these neurons that fire together, then we're still going to have the same path following down to get to the the choices, the beliefs that's going to take us to 80 or beyond. So now to do that, what we do is we physically take pictures of you with young, and because the mind does not know the difference between the past and the present, it also does not know the difference between the truth and a lie. Now we could lie to the brain so much that the brain starts accepting that it is the truth. So if we take you, Steve, and we take age 20, Steve, and we start making you believe you are age 20, those aches and pains are going to start reducing. Why? Because your behavior is going to start changing, because you're going to feel and think you're 20-year-old. And now the age 80 is still much further than what you're feeling. And like you just said, it's how you feel. It's not what you're thinking, but it's how you feel. So we have to change the feel of how do you cope with this trauma? The person that saw the manhandling of his wife and children, and saying that made my blood boil and created a leukemia. That person, we just have to take and say, right, let's take the picture before the time, and we eliminate that trauma. And by eliminating the trauma where the neurons are fired together, wiring together, it's not wired anymore, which means now we can move on as if it was prior to it. So that's where we do the brainwashing. We use a device like this. This is the one that's going to be launching up in July, and you've got a pad like this that helps with the heart brain coherence. And once we get that done, and we can have the heart neurons, which is the emotions, work together with the brain, synchronize it, and on that basis we're using the imaging to be able to make sure that the mind starts reconnecting and saying, now I'm 20-year-old. So Steve, you're a 20-year-old in mind, and your behavior and your decision making is going to reverse to the age of the feeling. Isn't that amazing?
It really is. Interesting you use the word brainwash. A lot of us, because of TV, media, movies, all of that,
yeah.
We think of brainwash. No, when you think of it in a different way, wash, you're getting rid of all the garbage in your brain when you use the term brainwash. Side note, I went for hypnotherapy 3 weeks ago, and it's synchronicity. During the session, what came up was me in my 20s. I don't know why. Maybe it was on a Saturday, and I remember back when I was in my 20s, I would work in radio, play radio, and I found joy in it back then when I began. But also I saw another image of me jogging when I was in my 20s. Both of those, I heard music, and I heard the music that I listened to when I was in my 20s. So it was almost as if I was going back for a reason. And there was joy in that, in going back. And I would do that every Saturday. I would go for a jog and listen to music. I would do radio. There's definitely something there if we can look at ourselves younger and embrace that, as opposed to taking the mindset of complaining, I got up, I'm getting old, and my legs, all you're doing is just be careful what you ask for, because that's what you're getting.
Dr. Raymond, can I jump in here just for a second and ask you a question? Steve is really hopping around the physical statement of there's second law of thermodynamics, things increase towards a greater degree of entropy and randomness. We fall apart as we're growing older. And our thoughts, my question to you, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm not leading you, I'm just quite interested actually, does the mind have the capacity to change the gene expression that we've inherited from our forefathers, so that we don't get wrinkles like my grandmother had, or my uncle had, or maybe even the hair loss that my dad had? Just playing with you there. But you know what I'm saying? The expression of genes that we're dealt with, this package of heredity, can our mind turn on and off these gene expressions?
Well, there's a well-known Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he, as a microbiologist, he looked into saying, is a gene expression the ultimate? And back in 1977, he was fired at Stanford to say that it is not the gene. because it's still today it's trained as it's a dogma, which is a belief. So it's not about the gene, it's about whether the gene has been read or not. And once it's read, it means it's an environment. So in other words, the environment is in such a way that it can be read or cannot be read. And then once it's read, the amino acid that must come out of that expression is the protein sheath that's around the DNA. And it's got a 30,000 different interpretations that can be done. So wow. It wasn't that your genes are going to give you bald hair. It is saying that I imprinted on dad at that type of age I need to be bald, which means I need to make sure that my estrogen, my testosterone, my free testosterone and DMT is going to be disrupted. So I need to create this condition so that I can have less hair and be bald like dad. So it's not the gene. It's got the environment which is controlling and coordinating the entire body and the hormones, the production of it. Everything is going about not the gene. It's going about how do we interpret the environment, and we want the environment there.
So wow. If we want to change that, we literally can change our own physiology. I remember once we worked with a client who wanted to change the color of their eyes. Do you want to share with the audience about that experience?
Well, if you get somebody with green or blue eyes, and especially somebody that's just close to you, they would say to you, your children might say, Dad, I can see you are angry, because they look at the color of the eyes. So your eyes can physically change according to your mood. So whether it changes according to your mood or it changes permanently, it's just the melanin which is in the eye and the light that reflects on the melanin. So how much melanin gets released determines the color of your eyes. And I had a lady back in South Africa. She was a green-eyed girl, and she turned over to blue-eyed girl. And it's all just going about what hormones are being released in the body to be able to give you the outcome that you would like.
Wow. Fascinating. We're out of time. I don't want to stop. This is just, this is amazing. And it just backs up things I've heard previously, how what we think truly becomes our reality, but not just the reality around us in itself. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Noah, how do we contact you if somebody's got some questions? I don't know if Raymond, you're available as well. Please share if you would like.
Well, you can reach me obviously at my website, Mind Transformation Inc., all one word. You can call me on my phone, 319-640-6504. Dr. Raymond and I work together quite well together, because it's the mind-body connection. And Raymond, share with them how they can reach you.
Well, my time is very I'm very busy in my time, so I don't want to give my telephone number out there, because it's just going to be me not be able to take the calls. But if those that would like to look into our technology when we launch it, I have got mindmodified.us. If you want to pop on there, and the website just saying you can pre-register if you would like to know more about this, which is coming the 11th of July 11th. Sorry about that. I want to use the South African way. So it's July 11th that we're going to launch. Then you can put your email, and we'll let you know when we're ready to launch with a new product, that you have got access to this technology as well.
Well, we'll do another show with you, Doctor, and you can roll that thing out in specificity. You've talked a little bit about it today. Very exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Very. Again, I don't want to stop. This is so interesting about our lives and where we are, and looking at genetics. We put so much stake in those genetics, but it really isn't that way based on everything that we're hearing today, and so much more. Thank you both for being here. Learned so much.
Well, Steve, thank you for having me.
We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.